The AsIs podcast does not necessarily hold the views or opinions of our guests. The guests have a right to express their own thoughts, and those thoughts are protected with their freedom of speech. What they say is what they say, and we allow them the right to speak on their own behalf. The AsIs podcast is not responsible nor liable for the opinions and stories of others. Welcome to another edition of the AsIs podcast. Today's special guest is none other than Carl King. Carl King is the son of Don King. Carl, you there?
I'm here, bro.
Man, I almost made a foolish mistake before, and I keep doing it, but I corrected myself. But let me go into this like this. This is a special interview for me. One of the reasons why is because most of it will surround or talk about boxing. And my stepfather was a professional boxer. A lot of people don't know that. I usually don't tell my business, but he was locked up. He was just a regular dude, I guess, if you want to call that, but he had a talent to fight. He was one of Don King's first fighters. DK seen fit, I guess, to get him out of jail and try to get him right, but he had demons. He had, he was caught up in between the heroin game. Back in those days, heroin was a big thing, so he went through that. I can say for sure, my mom's has passed away, but she was definitely in love with this man. His name was Jeff Merritt. She loved him more than I did, and it still remains that way. But he was my father. He was someone who helped to raise me and the good and the bad. DK, Don King, I guess he knew that there were problems there, so he had offered to actually take me and put me in his family, actually adopt me. From what I understand, my mother didn't want to let me go, but I stayed with them for a while. And the person whose lap who I fell on to take care of me is none other than Carl. So this is Carl on the phone, and if a lot of people say that's like my brother, or that's like he's truly like a brother because he truly helped to raise me. I don't know how else to say it. So let's just get into some stories. First of all, let me just say this. I know a lot of people have Don King as a bad taste in their mouth for whatever reason, but I will always respect that man. That man seen something in just being right. I don't think it was something in seeing in me. I think he seen something in doing something right, and that was by helping to raise me. As far as whatever happened in the boxing world and all of that, I'm not a boxer. I'm sure there are people that are going to have stories, but I'm going to be totally honest. I don't care about what someone else's story is. So let me just make that clear from the beginning. Anyway, Carl, man, what the hell has been up?
Man, I said you just took me back to the early 70s. You know what I mean? As it's like, not to be telling our age here, but I've been grown a couple times. I've been 21 3 times. So it's like, man, I'm thinking back, man, as in an earlier conversation that you and I had, I was expressing the level of competition back in the 70s in which Jeff had to compete in those, like 1973, 74. My pops had just recently come out of jail himself. You know what I mean?
Right.
In September of 71, he was released. And by, I don't know, happenstance, fate.
We talking about DK, right?
Right.
Okay.
When he got released out of jail, I don't know, it was happenstance or fate, or divine intervention, but he got into boxing and, helping a hospital, helped saving a black hospital in the city of Cleveland in 1972. Right. But it was around that time that I got to meet Jeff Merritt, Candy Slim. Right. His nickname, right. 6'5", 225, converted southpaw. a beast, could box, punch. Hey, man, the guy had a real legitimate shot to be heavyweight champion of the world. And mind you, at a time when there was Muhammad Ali, there was George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Ron Lau. I mean, there was some real killers in that heavyweight division. Jerry Quarry, you know, I mean, it was stacked, man. It was really, really stacked. You know, Ernie Shavers was another one that comes to mind. That was, you know, these guys, they could flat out fight. Each and every one that I mentioned can fight.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, but that's the level of competition, you know. But man, when you entered into, you know, when all this was happening in my life, I was, you know, like I said, I was 14, you know, about to be 15. When I met Jeff, I had just got my temporary driver's license. And I recall this, man, like it was yesterday, because it's such a memorable time in my life. I had, you know, I'm growing up, man, my father, who is, you know, is not my biological father, as the world already knows.
Right.
But at the same token, his only father that I ever known. So that's what he is. So at the end of the day, you know, we would, I remember being in 1973, in June of 73, just finishing, I don't know, my freshman year at high school, whatever it was, sophomore year. At 15 years old, I'm in New York City, and I'm staying on West 81st Street. I think it was 81st or 86th Street, one of the two. I get confused at times. It was the Excelsior Hotel. It was just that. It was the wiggle in and wobble out, you know, where the sparring partners stayed, you know, where my old man was staying at the Statler Hilton, which was right across from the Garden. It's the
I remember that.
Now, I believe it is. And back then it was a real nice spot.
Yeah.
But I'm in there, man, and I'm like I said, 15. I'm with all these guys, Jeff, and this is at the time that I met your mother.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like a little kid. You know, they were all older than me. You know, not way older than me, but old. You know, in my book, it was way older than me. You know, probably 10 years, I would imagine. You know. Right. But man, you know, I'm driving around in temporary license with Jeff, and he did have those demons. Yeah. And I witnessed it firsthand, where I actually legitimately drove him to one of them spots uptown, you know, one of them corners, 116th and 8th Avenue type thing, you know what I mean? And he said, wait right here, I'll be back. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm double parked, man. I'm just tripping on all these zombies I'm looking at. I am about as green can be at that particular time. I'm looking like, man, what the fuck? What is this? What is, you know, I mean, niggas leaning and ain't falling. You know what I'm saying? You know, it was a whole new world from where I had come from. And, you know, and Slim would come out, man, and he'd go in normal. He'd come out. He's zooming, but I'm still, like I said, man, I had no idea, man. I'm green. I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm just like, he drooling and shit. I'm like, man, what? You all right? Man, yeah, I'm good, baby. I'm good. Well, I'm like, no, nigga, you ain't good. And he always had his little brown bag with, you know, I don't know if they sold this wine in the joint, this little wild Irish rose. He come out with a half a pint. Pint of rose. I'm like, hey, man, you want to hit this? I'm like, nah, I don't want none of that. But I'm thinking in my mind, that's what got you, you know,
fucked
talking
up
the way you talking and drooling and shit, you know. And it was years later that I really, you know, was put on, you know, like what that was really all about. Right. And I was like, wow. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, I was like, I did that shit, you know. Right. But the love I had for this man was just incredible. And he will always, demons and all, he will always rank as one of my all-time favorite, not just fighters, but people that I truly, for some reason, click with, I got along with. And whether he was maybe a big brother type to me as I was to you type thing. Right. And so it was just mad love, man. And it's almost like, how can I describe this? It's like your first love. You're never gonna forget that girl. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like that girl that had your heart flooding and shit. You
Right.
couldn't
I
sleep.
get it.
You know, and I like in that same kind of feeling for it's like these early boxers that I was introduced to, the Ali's of the world, the Ernie Shavers, Jeff Merritt's. These were the people that the first people in boxing that I got to meet. And
Right.
I got to actually be around. I was actually at Grossinger's when Jeff broke Ernie Shavers' jaw when he was
I
training
remember that.
to
I remember
fight
that.
Jerry Quarry, right? It was right after, like I said, when I was there, when I was doing what I was just telling you about, that was for a June 18th, 1973 bout between Ernie Shavers and Jimmy Ellis at Madison Square Garden. And that might have been my first time ever in Madison Square Garden,
Right.
and so Ernie knocks out Jimmy Ellis in the first round. And now right away they booked a fight for July 25th in the Garden for Shavers versus Jerry Quarry.
Right.
So naturally, right after the fight, we shoot up to Grossinger's, and I'm like, this is my first experience at a quote unquote a training camp. And
Right.
there we were. And one particular day, I happened to be working Jeff's corner. I'm trying to, be involved, and I'm giving them water, rinsing the mouthpiece. They just finding something for me to do, I guess. And so, they had what you call, it was like open to the public, the public workout, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And Jeff wasn't in no shape. He had just got out, and he had just, all of this happened over the last 30 days that we met. I took him uptown. He did his thing, and I'm sure that wasn't the first and only time he did.
Sure wasn't.
So now we just 30 days in, and he's getting, Ernie is stepping the pace up a little bit, and he done already told I ain't in no shape, so let's not go. I don't need you going all out. So this round ends, and Jeff was a little upset. He like, man, this, and you know how he talk, hey man, this, he don't know what time it is, man. This dude, he ain't. I told him I wasn't ready for all this heavy thing. So me not knowing, I'm not professional or I'm not anything. I'm like, yo, man, well, shit, fight back, hit him back, nigga. Why, don't let him just run over you because he's supposed to be the quote unquote, he's the feature fighter of the group.
Right.
And lo and behold, man, Jeff went out there, double left hook, broke Ernie's jaw on both sides, man.
I remember that.
I
I
was like,
remember that.
postpone the fight. I'm jumping around like, yeah, yeah. And they like, yo, man, what's wrong with you? I'm like, but I'm like I said, man, I'm green. I'm like, man, I'm with this dude. We ain't, this ain't you supposed to win when you in the ring,
Right.
But you ain't supposed, I'm like, you ain't supposed to knock out the money, nigga.
Right.
That ain't supposed to be happening. So yeah, man. They ended up postponing that Shavers Quarry fight to December '73. I think I want to say it was December 14th. I got an uncanny way of remembering these dates.
Man, it's okay. But let me tell you this about Ernie Shavers. I remember, true story. We were at a training camp. We might have been out in Pennsylvania. I can't remember because I was really a little kid. But the first person to ever take me fishing was Ernie Shavers. It's crazy. Jeff broke his jaw and all that, but I don't know how long it took for them to mend or whatever. But I know when I finally met him, I met him at a training camp, and I think it was Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And he took me fishing.
No, that's Ernie, man. Shavers, man. He might be one of the nicest dudes you ever meet in life.
Yeah.
Funny story about Ernie, man, and I didn't witness this with my own eyes. They say how strong he is.
Uh-huh.
And there's a story where him and his brother walked into a garage, a mechanic shop, a garage, carrying an engine block and set it up on the table and told the guy what was wrong with the engine that they needed to fix. Yeah, I mean that's legitimately how strong he was. It can
Yeah.
just carry an engine block around. I don't think normal people can do that, you
Yeah.
know.
He was a big
But
dude. He was big. But you know
man,
what? The boxers back then were all big because I got stories on memories of Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton, even Ali, Ron Lyle, a lot of guys I remember. But I remember as a kid, they were all giants to me. Like, you know what I mean? You know how you're a kid and you see somebody and they were really giants. Jeff himself was a giant to me because he was already 6'5". So it was just
right.
like, wow, like this dude is just big. But I mean, it brings back memories, you know. But it's kind of like I'm fond of those memories, but then there's the dark side that comes sometimes
Yeah,
that bothers
right.
me. You know, I've seen this man. I've seen him have an argument with my mother. We were in Cleveland, and I don't know if DK had gotten him a house or how we got. I don't know how the hell none of that. Because you know, as a kid, you don't know what's going
Right,
on.
right,
I
right.
just know he was there. Long story short, they got into an argument, and I remember watching him beat up on my mother, and he ripped her clothes off. He drug her in
What?
he drug her in the bathroom. He put her under the shower and got her wet. She was in the bathroom crying. I remember this. And he got a hanger. And he unscrewed the hanger. He started beating my mama with the hanger. And I remember we were in the house. It was a big countrified house. It had one of those things that comes out the ceiling. You know how stairs used to come out the ceiling? There was a rope or a string that you could pull down.
Right, right.
And I remember my mother. My mother was 5'4", 5'5" maybe, jumping up to greet the string to try to run up in the attic, and he caught her.
Wow.
Like, and that kind of put inside me, you know, when my mother passed, I know that she loved him and she always tried to track him down to find his whereabouts. I don't know if she tried to physically reach out and talk to him, but I just remember as a child, one of my things was when I get old enough, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
No bullshit. No, I feel you on that.
Like,
See, see that's a part of him that me personally never witnessed.
right, I get
I
it.
have heard nasty stories, street stories. You know what I mean? You know, he taking people's shit, going in the dope house, taking they
He was like
shit.
that. We lived on 80th Street. I think 80th, and I'm sure your father has something to do with this. We lived on 80th Street, and we lived with the rich white folks lived at, but in buildings in New York, you know, you got Park
Right.
Avenue, the East Side, the West Side. So I think we were on the East Side, and I remember. Obviously now I know it was a dope deal, but I remember a guy coming to the house. He might have been a boxer because he was just as big as Jeff. I don't know what the hell happened, but all I know, we had there was a garage behind the building, so we had our own private garage, and Jeff didn't have a car that I remember. So it was just like an empty space. Long story short, Jeff hit this man and knocked him clean out. Broke his jaw too. Then
Wow.
he drugged the nigga in the house. And my mama woke him up. They got the ambulance. The bad thing about athletes, I think when they have that type of aggression, I don't think it stays where it's supposed to. In other words, I think if you're in the ring or if you're a football player, I could be very well wrong. But when you have that type of adrenaline and aggression and it's to destroy, it's not turnable. You can't just turn it on and off. And I think
Right.
when you turn it on for the ring, that might be fine. But I think there's a trigger, and a trigger can be anything, whether it's from your child, whether it's from your wife or whatever, and that shit comes out. And I think that's what happened with him a lot. And I think what really actually kicked a lot of that off was the drug use.
No doubt, no doubt, man. I would agree with you wholeheartedly on all that.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's what it was.
I didn't heard stories. I didn't seen them knock dudes out, you know,
Yeah.
on the street. And I'm like, man, you know, and it's like, yo, man, you know, I don't need none of this in my life. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm 16, 17, you know, all during that time.
Yeah.
And the strangest thing I do, you know, when one of the last things I really ever did for Jeff as a professional fighter
Mm-hmm.
he was somewhat on the outs with DK, and he said Jeff wouldn't train this and that, and so I told him, I said, man, you can get a fight, man, you just got to train. And so he agreed to go to Puerto Rico and train with some folks that DK knew down on the island.
Right.
A guy named Bill Daly and his guys down there would look out for him. They were big in the boxing game too. They had all those, Puerto Rican fighters back in the day, the Wilfredo Gomez. Well, this is even before the Gomez's, I mean, it was, a bunch of, just great, Benitez was starting out, guys like that. But anyway, when I knew Jeff was about as slick as they come, and I probably wouldn't, couldn't handle him in any kind of professional sense, was sending him to Puerto Rico on a one-way ticket. And about 2 weeks later, I was rolling through the city, and I'm like, I look over and I'm like, damn, that dude looked just like Jeff. I can't. I know where Jeff at,
Right.
And I roll up on him, and it was him, man. I'm like, man, what are you doing? Man, I couldn't stay down there, man. That ain't what's happening, and da.
That was them drugs.
And I'm like, yeah, man. But the ingenuity that it must have took, it's like somebody dropped you off in Puerto Rico with a one-way ticket on an island. It's kind of hard to get back. You know what I mean? Somehow or another.
Carl, I think for the average person it would, but because we both know Jeff was the kind of dude that if he got desperate or whatever, he'd just knock a nigga out and take the money.
Yeah, that's what he do, man.
That's what he was on.
He was an authentic thug, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, he was something, man, and it was amazing, as a kid, because when I got old enough to realize the kind of shit he was doing, none of it was cool. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, man, and for the life of me, it's hard to figure out legitimately why you got feelings for this dude. Now, mind you, he ain't never bring me no harm.
Right.
He ain't never do anything to put me in fear or any of that. You know what I mean? And maybe that's because of my old man. I don't know why.
Of course it was because of DK. Because, you know what, just to interject, DK, I don't know if and I'm not taking a knock at DK, but DK was just as fierce as Jeff. Because DK had knocked a nigga out too. He did time for killing a nigga. So both of them dudes was
that era, man,
that's how it was.
It was a different breed of dudes, you know
was.
what I mean? And particularly for us black folks, that had it, really bad. I mean, man, I remember as a kid in Cleveland, being caught up in the wrong neighborhood, in a white neighborhood, and I had to call home to from a restaurant, a little burger joint, to have somebody come get me, because outside it was 10 or 15 white boys with chains and shit. It was that was in the 60s when racial tension was at an all-time high, man. Was you going through the riots and everything back then?
Was you at the farm? Was you at the farm then in Cleveland?
No, this was in the city. We had I think all those incidents that I like that is what prompted my mother to move us out of the city to the country.
Okay.
And DK was gone. He was gone away at that time. And it was just, I guess she probably had a vision of seeing the light, like, hey, I'm going to have some issues out of this boy if I don't get him out of here. I mean, we're throwing Molotov cocktails at 10, 11 years old. I mean, it's really, when I look back and I go visit that old neighborhood and see some of the friends that I come up with, they remind me of a lot of the devilish shit that I did as a kid.
Yeah.
That I was like, man, I really did that, throwing Molotov. It's like vague memories, but man, sometimes people remember things you may not remember.
Yeah.
But my point is, it was a rough time, so dudes had to be kind of rough.
Yeah.
But like you said, that there's no on and off switch.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a nigga can't turn it off. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And
True.
you know, and DK has been like that. You know, in much more in the verbal sense. Like he can be hot at somebody else, and you happen to walk in, and it's like, and you gonna get blasted
Yeah.
because you just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well,
You
let me
know?
just say this: he might blast you. Let me just let me give you a synopsis of what I'm saying. I think my father strung you out because you weren't used. You didn't know. It was kind of like, you know, he brought a side of you that he brought you to a side that you weren't familiar with. So it's kind of like getting open, and it was kind of amazing to you that people really live like that. That's what my opinion is.
Right.
And then I think with DK, if he spazzed out on you, and I've never seen him spaz out. And what I was going to say is he might have spazzed out on you because you were his son. He never spazzed out on me. I never seen that side of him. Like, I hear stories and I hear people saying whatever they say, and it's like in my head is I'm saying, is this the same man? Because I've never ever witnessed any of that. And maybe because I was a kid and I was too small. You know, I don't know, but I just
Well, same with me though, man. You know, it's like, you know, I would do shit that would call for, you know, for somebody spazzing out on me. You know,
yeah.
it never was like an unearned. You could count the number of unearned disciplinary shit that I had to deal with that I didn't really earn that. You know what
Right.
I mean? I had did some shit, and it was like, you can't do this, and they, you know, and their way of discipline then is different from now. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I
Definitely.
didn't get the beatings. I mean, I wasn't like I got beat like that. But you know,
I
but
never
man, my
see.
old man was, you know, he's a big dude, and you know,
Yeah.
and he's always been this 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
When I was 4 foot tall, you know, I'm
Right.
looking up like, yeah, he's a giant,
Same
hollering
with
and
me.
screaming.
Yeah.
You know, that made it more fearful until, you know, I got grown. It's like, yo, man, you can't be talking to me any kind of way.
Yeah, I get
You
it.
know,
But you
so
know
you know,
what?
and after that, we get along just great. You know
But
what I
but
mean? But
but you know what, Carl? Let me tell you this, man, and don't get mad at me for saying it. But I don't think that you got the kind of discipline that most kids would have got because your ass was rich. You was spoiled. I remember. Let me tell you why I say that. I remember one time. I don't know how the hell you had a pickup truck. I think I told you the story before.
yeah,
You had a little fucking pickup truck. You was driving. I think we had people with us in the car, and you told me to get in the back. So I'm sitting in the back, but I'm sitting on the part. You know how the pickup trucks, the latch comes down, the whole back piece comes down.
yeah.
And I remember you pulling off and me flipping out that motherfucker.
Nah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I remember that shit. You didn't do it on purpose, but I remember that. I don't
Hey,
know.
I'm telling you, I remember the little. I remember the pickup, the light green, like the light
Yeah,
green Chevy
yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
It was one of them with the shifters on the column, and you know, with the clutch. It was like, what they call it, not on a standard shift. You know, it's like 3 gears, and you know, they was up on the steering column, not on the floor.
Right.
And I'm like, that's the same kind of shit I learned to drive on the simulator at driver's education class in school. You know what I mean? But yeah, hey man, as far as all that being spoiled, nah, baby, it
You
wasn't
was
like that.
rich. Come on, man. You was rich.
Look,
Man, you know what?
no,
I'm gonna stop you, Carl. I remember.
daddy was rich, mama was good looking,
Okay.
and I was
If
just a product of the environment.
all right, then. Well, you know what? I'd rather be a product of that environment. I remember one time we going somewhere. Me and DK is in a limo. It was just me and DK. I don't know where the hell we was going, but I remember this specifically. It was a black limo. On the either the right or the left side, there was a little compartment that sat above the seats, and the nigga had a phone in there. And we talking about the 70s. I remember it was a red phone in the goddamn car. Now, how the hell you ain't gonna be rich when you got a portable? It wasn't portable. It was a phone like a regular phone in the house, but it was in the car. This is in the 70s. How you ain't rich? Come on, man. I
Yeah,
remember.
well, hey, look, I never had a phone, so I wasn't. You know, this is what I know, man. I had what was necessary. You know what I mean?
Right. I get
It,
it.
wa- it I wish, you know, like I look at some of these my, you know, white counterparts that come up. Like, mind you, for example, my college roommate, I went to school with Hank Steinbrenner.
Okay.
God rest his soul. He just passed about a year ago. But yeah, but that's George Steinbrenner's son, owner of the Yankees. Now,
Right.
now when he was a kid, his father gave him a piece of this racetrack, and with these racehorses and stuff. He didn't know nothing about that. But the point of the matter is, when they sold the racetrack, Hank got his cut. Hank got his cut. Therein lies the difference in the black family and the white family. There wasn't no cut coming my way.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I get it. I get it, but you were still definitely blessed because I was blessed.
Hey, man, I have had, listen, let's make no mistake about it, man. I have had a charmed life.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because I remember, listen to me. I was kind of mad when my mama took me back. Because I remember the cows. I remember I used to get up in the morning and go play with them cows in the back. Y'all had a big barn and feed the cows.
Right.
Y'all had Black Angus cows. Black Angus cows ain't cheap within themselves. I don't know how many it was, but I know there was a lot of them motherfuckers. It was chickens.
We had, and then you had the one bull. His name was President.
I don't remember the bull.
He knocked up about 40, 45 heifers and dropped dead. This is an honest to God true story.
Wow.
He screwed himself to death.
Wow.
And look, we were, my mother and father they weren't farmers. We didn't know nothing about no farming. And the bottom line, when you have a bull, you can only let him be out in that pasture with them females for a limited amount of time because he gonna screw himself to death. We didn't know that. I remember we just be making jokes. There you go. He hopping up on one of them, and laughing about it. President dropped dead one day, man. And the vet said he literally screwed himself to death.
Wow.
And I was thinking that, I said, that's how I want to go. That's exactly how I want to go.
Wow. That's crazy. Hey, man, let's get into this boxing talk, man. You're in the Boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, of course, you lived under, I don't want to say you lived under the shadow of Don King, but you can't help but to live under the shadow of Don King.
Right.
That's Don King. But you have your own accolades because you're in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Let's talk about some of the boxers back in the days and bring it up to now. Let me ask you this. Based on today's boxer versus yesterday's boxer, say whoever you pick the boxers, tell me the differences, and would yesterday's boxers or today's boxers stand a chance against each other? What would happen?
Well, you know what? I would think, and my best guess is this is what how I respond to things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the 1970s and the 1980s were that period of 20 years from say 1970 to 1990, I believe were boxing's golden years. These were the very best years in boxing, bar none. And irrespective of weight class or whatever, you had some of the best fighters in the world. When you talk about, look at the American Olympics today, we can't medal in the Olympics. We gone several Olympiads without even earning a medal.
Right.
And then you look at the 1976 Olympic team with Ray Leonard, Howard Davis, the Spinks brothers, John Tate. I mean, all of them guys, ended up world champions. It was probably the best team that we ever had. And it started to decline, in my view, after the United States boycotted the 1980 Olympics in Moscow. And then in turn, the communist countries boycotted the 1984 Olympics in LA. And I think that's when the Olympics took a big slide, and the boxing particularly has never really been the same. We'll get one or two guys on the team that will go on to do some great things, like Floyd Mayweather 96 team, and Antonio Tarver was on that team, and Andre Ward's in 04, Olympics and stuff like that. But I believe in my heart that 20-year span was the absolute best years that had the very best fighters, and the competition was at an all-time high.
Okay.
So, dudes like, Roberto Duran, for example. Duran went from a lightweight all the way up to a light heavyweight.
Right.
And you shouldn't be able to do that, really, but this guy was just that special.
Right.
He might have been the very number one best lightweight ever.
Right.
And then he beat Ray Leonard as a welterweight. And speaking of Ray Leonard might be one of the greatest welterweights that we've had, in a long time.
Definitely.
And people talk about, Floyd. I got a lot of love and admiration and respect for Floyd Mayweather.
Me too.
But I don't believe he would have been who he is today
back then,
had he came up in the 80s when the competition sounded like Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, Wilfredo Benitez,
Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler.
Hagler,
Yeah.
yes, man. And particularly, Floyd, is physically he's about 5'6", maybe 5'6", 5'7".
Right.
And the Leonards was 5'11". Tommy Hearns was 6'1".
Right.
So physically now and I'm saying that as a welterweight. Floyd started out, I think his first world title was a junior lightweight, 130 pounds.
Right.
Now, and he had the perfect size for that. But when you move up, these dudes get bigger, and I just think that it's a whole lot of guys today that I don't think would have fared as well as they did today had they been in that era.
Right.
Now there's folks that's much older than me now that would say that their era was the best. It was boxing golden years with the Joe Lewis's, folks like that, Jack Dempsey back.
Yeah, way back.
But what I seen, and man, it seemed to me that what we have more of today, though, you have more of a global participation in sports, and particularly that was created when the communist countries fell apart, right. when the downfall of communism and all these, now you have all these countries like Ukraine and Kazakhstan, all of these independent nations now have very good professional fighters.
Right.
I mean, they are, strong, talented, tough as nails, and as good as anybody. And, back in the 80s, they were not allowed to turn pro. Like the Cuban fighters, for example, weren't allowed to turn pro.
Right.
Now you can. So it's kind of like open up. That's the one good thing, in today's era. It's opened up a more of a global type of competition and, global level of fights. And that, I don't know if that of course it makes the game better because you're really competing against any and everybody from, anywhere in the world, where back in the 70s and maybe into the 80s, there were some countries that wouldn't allow their citizens to become professional fighters and so forth. So you do have that.
Right.
But I think that, another thing is that, back then guys would train in a more of a natural kind of, what I'm trying to say is that there wasn't any, weight machines. There wasn't any of these, like weight machines that concentrates on one particular muscle. Guys would go out and they would chop trees. They do their road work, chop trees, and pretty much do the rest in the gym,
right.
Hitting the bag, hitting the speed bag, and sparring. Now you have, and I liken this for people that perhaps are not real big boxing fans, but are like Rocky fans, that cinema world champion Rocky Balboa.
Right.
If you look at Rocky 3 when he fought the Russian, played by Dolph Lundgren, how he had all the machines and the breathing apparatus, and they testing this, testing that. Well, that's really happening today. You can, be in a hyper, whatever they call it, pressurized, cabin to get, to get ready to fight in a high altitude, where
Right.
before you couldn't do that. You know what I mean? None of this modern technology was available in the 70s, in the 80s. We didn't have any of these things.
Right.
So in that regard, I think today's guys that have a much better opportunity to hone and sharpen their skill set by getting stronger and being able to work on, if it's your legs are weak, you can just work strictly on legs. If you have, upper body strength, you can just work just on the upper body. Where beforehand, you had free weights. You didn't even have weight machines back then.
Right.
And most of them fighters that I knew, no one lift weights. They were all just, like I said, they would chop trees. They would do their road work in the morning. They would, go to the gym in the afternoon and maybe chop trees in the evening. And some guys would chop trees after they run in the morning. But that was the only non-boxing related activity that they would do in terms of preparing for a fight.
Right.
Now the guys are swimming, guys are going to the gym, they're getting personal trainers, nutritionists, and things like that. And like I said, it gives them a much greater opportunity to be to rise to the the level of greatness that you're striving to become, if you have that skill set.
Right. Let me ask you
Guys
this.
back then just gutted it out.
Let me ask you this. One of the more controversial things. Let's talk about some boxers, and the boxer that I first want to talk about is Mike Tyson.
Okay.
I know him and DK went through whatever they went through, but I know you promoted one of his fights or co-promoted one of his fights, and you've been around him. So tell me what you think about Mike Tyson.
Man, listen, Mike. Mike. I would say this. Mike had several personalities, man, and one of which, Mike is one of the nicest dudes I ever been around. One of the more generous cats that I've been around. I've seen this guy, go in clothing stores, designers, Gucci's, they shut the store down. Versace shut the store down. And if you happen to be with him, he was not the kind of dude that would be, like, how does this look on me? And he would be overly generous. Like, man, you need to get some, man. Try that on, try this on. And, and not many people do that, man. And Mike is, like I said, very, very generous, very kind-hearted. But then he has that other side too.
Okay.
That that enabled him, in my view, to become the great fighter that he became. Nice guys in the ring don't win. You know what I mean? You got to be something special, something different, man. You get in that ring, bro, it kind of, it adheres to your most animalistic type qualities.
Right.
Well, it's you or that other dude. There's no timeouts. There's no substitutions. There's none of that. And when it's over, like football, you take the game of football, man, football players hit the deck on every single play in the game. Every single down, somebody's hitting the deck. In boxing, you hit the deck. If you hit the deck longer than 10 seconds, the game is over. It's over. The fight's over.
Yeah.
So in one sense, one sport is far more dangerous, and you hear about all these concussions that's going on in this concussion protocol these football players, and rarely do you get a fighter that gets concussed, unless he gets knocked out, and then that's automatically considered concussed. If you you go unconscious.
Right.
But I just think that, man, you have to be a certain type of way to be able to inflict the kind of pain and punishment on another individual in order to achieve your goal, in order to eat, in order to feed your family. That's a special kind of person can do that. Not everybody can do that.
But
And Mike Tyson, can turn that switch on, man, and it'd be a complete animal. He won a lot of his fights before he even got in the ring, just walking to the ring before the bell rung. Motherfuckers be intimidated, looking across. This nigga ain't had no socks on, no robe,
yeah,
growling and shit. You know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing? Ain't no showmanship. It's straight business.
yeah.
Ding, and that nigga be jump out on your ass, and that would be it. You know what I mean? And he was running through heavyweights like Grant went through Richmond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but how do you feel about him as a person? Let's take away the boxing.
Look, I've always liked Mike. I have no issues with him as an individual.
Okay.
I know him, and I know his wife, and I've known her for since the mid '90s. So that's almost 30 years. You know what I mean? And I have a great relationship with him, but I don't see him often.
Right.
And the only problem that he and I ever had was because of what he and my old man was going through. You know what I mean? It's hard to separate with but that's, he look at me, you mad at DK and I happen to walk up on you. What you gonna think? It's like, oh man, that trigger gonna DK, oh, then I'm the no good motherfucker. You know what I mean? I get that.
Yeah.
And we've had our days where he didn't jump in my face and, and all this threatening shit,
Was you scared, man? Was you scared?
Huh?
Was you scared? Be honest.
Was he? Yeah,
no,
he was
you
scared.
Not him, you.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
Good word.
And I was like, look, man, I know, look, what's wrong with you, man? You need some help, bro. You need some help.
Yeah, listen to me,
and
Carl.
I know damn well you ain't gonna hit me. I'm hoping like, oh man, I hope this nigga don't just beat me up. Ain't nothing I could do. You know what I mean? As much as, ego and macho as any man would want to be, like, man, y'all fight for can't win this one.
Yeah, definitely. Let me tell you.
Nowhere in the world that if me and Mike Tyson and Mike don't end up on the winning side of that equation, there's 1,000 out of 1,000 times that shit's gonna happen,
Yeah.
So it was uncomfortable.
He is an animal, and let me just tell you a story real quick. I think I was covering the Floyd Mayweather fight, and we were down in Vegas. And he was sparring. He had an open forum to spar in the lobby of the MGM. I didn't really.
You said, now what was this? When was this?
I was going to a Floyd Mayweather fight. We went to a Floyd Mayweather fight, and I was covering it. And while I was down there, Mike was in MGM Grand, and he was sparring in the lobby. And at the time, he was in transition because he's not the same Mike, or at least I haven't seen him for a while, but he's not the same Mike of today that he was during this time.
Right.
Like today is an entirely different Mike. He seems to have his shit together.
No doubt, no question.
He's on something else. But anyway, so he's in the ring sparring or whatever. So I see him, and he knows who I am. I know who he is because he's read my magazine, believe it or not. So this is a crazy story.
Right.
So long story short, he gets out the ring. His fans in there. They're going crazy. I'm there with about 9 people. I literally have 9 people. I have my girl, her sister, my assistant, some friends. So he has a team, I guess it was hotel security, of a bunch of white guys in suits, and these dudes was like 6'5", 6'6". There's about 4 of them. So they're keeping everybody apart. So Mike is like, let him in. So he's pointing at me. So they let me in. I join the entourage. I tell my girl, I'll be right back. They all down in the lobby or whatever. So we go upstairs to a suite. Listen, man. When I tell you I was overly impressed, because first of all, it's Mike Tyson. Like, I'm just going to be 100. This is Mike Tyson we talking about. So I'm like, wow. So he sits down, and as he sits down in the suite, there was a table, a coffee table. On the coffee table was one of my DVDs, because I did DVDs as well. So he has one of the DVD covers literally on the table, and my head is big as fuck. So we're talking about the DVD. So we sit there, we're about 10 minutes into a conversation. The next thing I know, Carl, listen, somebody knocks on the door. Now, he had security outside that door, so it had to be somebody that he knew, or however they allowed him in. Somebody knocks on the door. It's a black dude, right? So now, when we come from the streets, we can identify with what's what. So I immediately knew dope boy. I wasn't gonna say shit, but I immediately knew this nigga was a dope boy. So Mike,
Okay.
Mike brings him in. Excuse me. I didn't say anything to him. In front of the TV is where the dude walked to and turns around and he's facing Mike. So he's trying to whisper, but I'm listening to what they talking about. Whatever happened, let me tell you, Carl, the nigga did not have this nigga shit. Like, and he was, this is when Mike was in between. He was just training downstairs, but he was still dibbling and dabbling. Dude, whatever Mike sent him for, he didn't have it. The next thing I know, Mike grabbed this nigga by his shirt. One hand, balled him up. The other hand, grabbed him around his neck and lifted this motherfucker up off the floor. Literally. I'm looking at this nigga. I'm sitting on the couch and I'm in disbelief because this is fucking Mike Tyson. There was no window next to the wall. There was a wall. So there was no window. I would have, under normal circumstances, I would have thought Mike was going to throw this motherfucker out the window. Yo, this nigga grabbed him by his shirt with his left hand. With his right hand, grabbed him by his neck and lifted this motherfucker off the floor. For whatever.
Yeah, man.
So when I tell you this man was powerful, I
bro.
seen the raw power. So now, boom, he lets the dude down, and he just says, yo, go get my shit. So the dude hurries and gets the fuck out the room. Now I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm nervous because now the nigga done turned on that switch. And I ain't did shit to him, but he turned it right off. And we go back to talking, and he's talking to me about, he asked me, he says, do you get residuals on your work? And at the time, I'm like, residuals? What the fuck are you talking about? He's like, do you get royalties? Because he was getting ready to make a documentary. And he ended up making that documentary with Spike Lee. We walk to the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
I shake the nigga hand. Yo, let me tell you, Carl, I'm 6'1", 180, 185.
Okay.
I put my hand in this nigga hand, and the shit disappeared.
Yeah, hey man, big dude. Look, and the beauty of it is, man, you sit there when you're around and you're in awe because this guy at to keep this in proper perspective from a boxing perspective.
Right.
Mike was the biggest thing in boxing globally. If we hadn't seen anyone to command that type of accolades or whatnot since Ali. Everybody don't get that. Larry Holmes didn't get that.
Yeah.
Mike was literally the how they said, the baddest man on the planet, and was looked upon as that, like Ali was looked upon, like, so you sit there and it's like, wow, that's Mike Tyson.
Exactly. That's what you do.
And then on one side you hear some of the good stories, then you hear the dark side stories, and man, when you see him, man, he's not coming on like some uncivilized asshole. You know what I mean? He's a soft-spoken brother. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But then when that switch is hit, it's Jekyll and Hyde.
It is. I've seen it for myself. It is.
Oh yeah, man. And he gets this certain look in his eyes, and it's like, okay. And I sit there and I didn't see him. I'm like, okay, this nigga, he's there now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it ain't like, if you're trying to break something up, I'm not grabbing this man.
I'm not even touching
I'm not
him.
gonna be the one trying to.
Exactly.
He just gonna get to wherever he gonna get to. I'm not
Exactly.
trying to step in between all that, man. No.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely get it.
That wasn't part of my job description. I was like, yo, let me get out the way, because I don't want to get crossed up in here and get fucked up my damn self.
Exactly.
Or nigga think I'm for the other dude. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I don't need none of that shit.
He's too strong. You could just, the nigga was just too fucking strong. Like, it was unbelievable what he did. I just was sitting there in awe. Like, god damn. But you know what? Let's move on to the next person. Ali. Tell me about him.
Man, look, this, now you talking about this, he's my childhood hero.
Mine too.
He was everything to me, man, that I've never seen him lose a fight, you know, and And I was there when Larry Holmes beat him, and he was 38, and it was clearly past his prime.
Right.
It was, nowadays that's another thing about today's fighters. They're fighting longer. For
Right.
whatever reason, 40 years old ain't a death sentence. Back then, Ali was completely done at 38 when he
Right.
fought Holmes.
Right.
But to see him, man, as a young child, man, I had to be, wow. I don't know, man. It was shortly after. I was probably 6, 7 years old when he came through Cleveland before the Sonny Liston fight.
Okay.
He came through my father had a nightclub, and he came through with this big old bus. And, you see the bus. I didn't, we meet him. He was Cassius Clay.
Right.
Oh, this Cassius Clay. Okay, I don't know who Cassius Clay is. Oh, he fighting. I heard Sonny Liston. I was too young to really put it together. Sonny Liston was a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I got a chance to see that Cassius Clay on closed circuit fight Sonny Liston and beat Sonny Liston. And I was sold. And then, from there on, I seen Ali throughout my childhood. He would come by the house. And when he come by the house in Cleveland, I was a bad motherfucker on the block for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean?
Hey, let me not cut you off, but I got to. You hit a key point. Carl, me too.
Yes.
Brother, me too. Like when you come through with those kind of people, or you're around those kind of people, when people know it. Like I can remember the first time Jeff was on the Wide World of Sports. I was in maybe the 4th or the 5th grade, and he fought, and it was good and bad. But I remember him coming to my school, and the whole fucking school stopped. It seemed like, but the punchline is the nigga fought Stan Ward and got knocked the fuck out, and then it was for a month. I was embarrassed as hell. I was happy.
I was at that fight. I was at that
when Stan
fight
Ward knocked him out. Man,
yep,
I was mad. I was there.
Utica, New York.
I was there.
Yeah, Utica, New York, 1976. It was the summer of '76. Michael Dokes was in his corner hollering for him, and that would ended up being my first fighter. But Jeff was, I cried after the Stan Ward fight.
Man, I had to go back to fucking New York and go to school, and I was the laughing stock of the school. Because you know what a lot of people hate when you be around that, they smile in your face and they happy to see it, but secretly they're jealous. So if they could find a way to come back at you, they're gonna do it. So he got knocked the fuck out. He was whooping Stan Ward's ass for the first round. They don't know he dropped his hands or some shit, and this little motherfucker just knocked his ass right the fuck out. I remember being at the ring and screaming and crying, "Jeff, get up! Jeff, get up!"
Oh man, it was. I think it was in the 3rd round.
Yeah, it was.
Ward hit him with the left foot. And Ward, that was the one thing Stan Ward could do was punch.
Yeah. He was a little nigga. He was
he's short and stocky, and he was slower than Jeff.
Yeah.
He is the perfect guy that if you box him, you'll look real good. But if you sit down and you want to stand in front of him and exchange, well, he may get the best of that, and that particular day, that blew my whole trip, man.
Me too.
I was like,
I was fucked up.
Man, we didn't come up here for this.
I was fucked up too. But back to what you were saying, when you are around those kind of people, you're the man.
Yeah, man. The whole neighborhood, man. And I was blessed enough in my childhood to have that happen on, in various stages of my childhood.
Right.
With Ali from the very first time. I think I was probably six years old, maybe, then as he came back as a world champion in '67, I think I was 10, and that was right before he fought Ernie Terrell. He had just fought Cleveland Williams and was about to fight Ernie Terrell. I think that's how it went. And in '67, he was by the house. Then he went into the exile, the 3.5 years of nothing.
Yeah.
And then he re-entered my life in like '72 when he did the boxing exhibition. He was back out at the house. So again, now I'm an early teenager, and I'm getting that teenage love now from
Yeah.
having been around Ali. And then it was on until we actually got into the game and, going to Africa and all that, it
Yeah.
was just, the rest was history. But that was coming up, man. And I just absolutely adored this man and still do right to the day.
Me
He's
too.
my favorite of all time,
Me too.
bar none.
Me too.
You know,
Wasn't Jeff
so when
supposed
people,
wasn't Jeff supposed to spar with him from what I understand and DK didn't want Jeff sparring with him.
I thought they did spar.
They did. Yeah,
I
my
believe
mother
so.
told me something like that. I can't remember. She was
Because
like,
the reason I say that is because the guy that really brought Jeff to DK was Bundini.
Boudini
Boudini
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
Rumble, young man, Rumble. I remember him.
Right. Boudini was the guy that got DK to get Jeff out of jail and do all that. And, and so I would, with his relationship with Ali, I would think that they had sparred.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. I didn't see it. Okay, let me say that. I wasn't there to witness it. So
My mother said there was something about she didn't say they sparred. She said he was supposed to spar, but DK didn't want him sparring with him because Jeff was a lunatic. And he didn't want to take the chance with
he did break Ernie Shaver's jaw.
Yeah. so they couldn't control him.
I'm sure DK wouldn't want Ali to get a broken jaw. That's for damn sure. You know.
Yeah, but they was cool though.
You just didn't know, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You didn't know what switch to flip with him, so it was like safest to just keep this nigga from over here.
Right. He may look at it like that. Oh, he bullshit, but it's an opportunity for me. I'm gonna hit this nigga and do some real damage.
Yeah, Jeff was probably like that. Okay, let's go into Larry Holmes.
Okay, Larry Holmes, man. This is what I say all the time about Larry Holmes. He's the most underrated, underappreciated heavyweight champion that we've had in modern memory.
Okay.
I think that Larry, had his problem was following Ali and having a very similar style of fighting.
Okay.
So then people would say, "Oh, he's trying to fight like Ali, or he's imitating Ali." No, that was just a particular style of fighting. As a boxer, he would do. Larry had the best jab of a heavyweight that I've ever seen. I would say it's better than Ali's jab.
Really?
Yeah, no, seriously, man. Larry Holmes' jab was a mother, man. And to prove what I'm saying, when Larry was 7.5 years heavyweight champion.
Okay.
And during his reign as champion, some 18, 20, 22 world title defenses, you could literally count the number of rounds. Hear me, rounds that he lost. He would rarely lose a round, man, and he might get knocked down, lose that round with Shaver's drop. He got up from that and almost won that round. It's just that, typically if you get knocked down, they ain't gonna give you that round if the other guy don't go down.
Okay.
So, but everything else about that round was Holmes' round, and he just got caught, went down, got up and finished what he was doing. But I think that him following Ali and people he just rubbed people wrong,
Yeah, because he was fucking bitter, man. He's fucking bitter.
He was bitter, and that was a lot. That was a lot of his problem. And I'll say this, man. Larry, I knew Larry from about the same time I met Jeff. Okay. 73. Larry was just about to turn pro back then when Jeff and Ernie and them were already seasoned pros. Same year, 73, he turned pro. And Larry and I never really got along that great, okay? Yeah. And then when I got with Michael Dokes, it seemed that it intensified. I didn't, members of his family, some I got along with, others I didn't. They had this thing with me.
Yeah.
But as years went on, and I would say this today, as we speak right today, Larry Holmes and I talk probably once or twice a month, and I consider him one of my dearest friends.
Yeah, well, that's your
You know.
friend. I don't like him. And I'm gonna put it on record. I don't like him because he wrote something about my father in his book, and I didn't like
Oh,
what he
I didn't
said.
see that.
Yeah,
I ain't see.
I, I keep some things in, But long story short, I think that if you got a problem with a person, I understand you have a memory or a memoir or whatever, but I don't think you should use it to sell books. And I think because he was a champion, some things didn't even need to be said. You didn't even have to talk about my father. There was no need for
No,
that.
that's true.
And I feel like you just an old bitter bitch. That's how I
Well,
feel.
Jeff might have tacked him up a little bit.
Well, I mean, hey, I've been
Because
tacked up.
back then, this what if I remember correctly, and I can't like the one sparring session I know that stands out in my mind is Shavers and Jeff the day that the broken jaw. But I seen countless number of rounds, and I don't remember any of them rounds. Okay,
Right,
but that one round when that actually happened is like, oh shit, you remember that?
right,
But I will say this is that when you were in camp with that group, when Larry would be in the camp, Jeff and Ernie, everybody boxed each other.
right,
It wasn't like Larry would have certain sparring partners and this one have other sparring partners and this. No, they round robin, everybody boxed each other.
right.
So although
They
I
sparred.
mean,
They
cannot.
definitely sparred. But they definitely. My father definitely sparred with him, and it's in his
Yeah,
book.
so
But he's a bitch. That's where I'm at with it. And you know what? I'm
no, well,
saying it.
listen,
I'm
and
disrespectful
I
with
can
it. I'm gonna
I
say it
can understand
disrespectfully.
that. I can understand that clearly because, like I said, it was a number of years. Our relationship got better in the last 10 years, and
Right,
literally,
right,
when and as I was in my 50, I was 50 years old. We got to be all right.
right,
Long after this fighting thing, you know what I mean. But Larry could rub you wrong, and because he rubbed me wrong a great number of years, and
right,
everybody that worked for him as a sparring partner, he wasn't the kindest nigga in the world to these people.
right.
You know what I mean? And he tried to talk shit, embarrass you,
Yeah.
want to steal your woman and all, and all that shit was going on, man.
I
It's
don't
a
think
lot
he
of
did that. I mean, in defense of my
no,
father,
well,
I don't think he
a
did
lot of
that with
times,
Jeff because I don't give a fuck
no, I
heavyweight or
don't
not.
think, no, I
Jeff
would
would have
never
whooped his
think that.
ass.
Yeah, it wouldn't even have been. It
Like my
wouldn't have been
mom's
about
wasn't
the
going for
ring.
that. Like for real.
No, he might have got gunned down, man. No,
Yeah, that
you
wasn't
can't
gonna
do
happen.
any of that. But with his sparring partners, this was long after that. This was when he was a world champion and he was really, he was really feeling himself, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had a lot of people around him that would cheer that type of shit on. You know what I mean?
Well, let's move on.
And
And what I say, let's move on. What I said about him is only a reflection of me, Shabazz. It has nothing to do with what
no,
Carl
hey man,
says or whatever. So I don't even want nobody to think that you had anything to say with it. But I said what I said.
it don't matter. None of that
You talk
matter to
about my
me.
father,
People gonna say what people
fuck
gonna
you.
say.
Like
I'm
that's how I
still
feel. I'm the
hey,
only one that can say something bad about that nigga. You know what
no,
I'm
well, you
saying?
know what, man? Listen, I understand how he can take you there, cause bruh, I was in a bitter war with them at one time. They tried to jump on me, man.
Really?
And
What happened?
after fight party, yeah, physically.
Who? Wait, tell
After
us that.
after Larry fought Tim Witherspoon, I had Tim Witherspoon,
Okay.
and I thought Witherspoon won the fight. A
Okay.
lot of people thought Witherspoon won the fight, but we didn't get the decision. So the judges seemed different, and Larry was upset about it because I was like, man, this is some bullshit. My guy won. I think we won. He should get his hand raised. And man, that whole family wanted to jump on me, man. Tried to swing on me and everything. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So I understand how all that can happen, and I was in that fuck you mode too, man. Fuck you, nigga.
Yeah. Yeah,
Stay away
definitely.
from me. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? And see the nature of this game, though, Shabazz. The nature of this game is I've seen this. It's like you that happens, and then next time you see a dude, he all right, then he ain't all right, then he all. It's a wishy-washy. You got cats in this game, these fighters. some of the most fickle motherfuckers you ever gonna meet at times.
Yeah.
Some of them. You know what I mean? It's like, man, why would you do this dumb shit? You know, why would you say that dumb shit? You know, yeah, I mean, it's just a whole lot of shit.
I mean,
you know,
I would understand with somebody saying something because sometimes you can say something and you can retract it. But when you write a book and that book is
no,
out
that's
there,
forever.
like
Yeah,
that, yeah. So forever,
see,
forever, fuck
but
him.
check this out. I would say this from me to you.
Uh-huh.
I let that roll off my show. I had to, because that, you know, the amount of negative press
Yeah.
and the shit that they say about my old man and about me too. You know, they disregard my education. They disregard my degrees and whatnot. You know, like, oh,
How does that
I'm
feel,
just,
Carl? How does that feel when people shit on your name, shit on DK?
hey,
How does that
man,
feel?
it takes every bit of strength that you got in every fiber of your body and soul not to react in a way that they will turn that against you as well. You know, see, I told you, you know, you can't whoop everybody's ass. And my mother was the one that got me straight. She was like, look, the only publicity is bad, you know, the only bad publicity is no publicity at all.
Right.
He said, you want to make sure they spell your name right.
Right.
You know, because people going to say what they going to say. And the quickest way for you to go crazy is to, you know, try to control shit that you had no control over. It would drive you out of your mind.
Right.
You know, and there's a thing as jealousy, envy,
Yeah,
all
definitely.
of that.
Yeah.
But in order for you to be subjected to jealousy and envy, you got to be doing something right. Something that ordinary cats ain't doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you dressing better, you look better, you act better, you talk better.
Right.
You know, you got the prettier girl, or you got the nicer car, whatever it might be. You know, people gonna, you know, they gonna feel a certain way about it.
Right.
And,
I get it.
And I try to, you know, like I tell folks, you don't like it, man, fuck you. You know, because, you know, none of them motherfuckers at all really mean anything to me in terms of you can't, and I try to work every day hard at this, is to not allow an insignificant motherfucker to have a significant effect on my spirit or my on you know my attitude.
Right.
You know, if you can't say something and you ain't, you know, first of all, whoever's saying this dude you ain't significant enough in my life for that to bother me. Who are you?
Right.
I can only make you a bigger man by getting in the tit for tat. Right.
Exactly.
So, hey, man, fuck them motherfuckers and keep it moving.
Because you know what? No matter what they say, I'm always going to say Don King is one of the best promoters, if not the best in history.
And for the most part, you're going to get, yeah, man, that's fucked up. He's a no good motherfucker. I know how they say it, you know what I mean? And look, I had shit when I was being introduced on an interview, you know, like open to, you know, the open audience. It was like an open question type thing. And motherfucker introduced me as Don Son, and motherfucker, are you a crook just like your father's a crook?
Yeah.
I said you need to, you know, speak to your family members, you know.
But you know what? Again, I've never seen that. Like, so maybe with family it's just totally different. The people that the person that the public knows, I've never witnessed. You know, you hear the stories about you walking.
Hey man, listen, I'm here to tell you that a lot of this shit is made up. And of course, look, you know, DK is a no shit taking motherfucker. Period. He's a complicated man, you know, and you know, and he's a go getter. This man is a workaholic. You know what I mean? And he's at it right today as we speak today, at 90 years old. You know. And not everybody has that. I don't have it. I don't have that kind of drive he has.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he take it better than I take it. When motherfuckers be booing him and talking smack and, you know, yelling out shit, he just smile, wave his flags. And I know he got it. And it got to bother him because it bothered me.
Yeah. But you learn to keep it inside. You
That's
learn
nature of the beast.
you
Go
learn
ahead.
to keep it inside. But you know what, man? I think it's because of DK that I have the hustle and the drive that I have. Because I'm like that. I'm relentless. Like I don't give a fuck what you say. You can say it in my face, behind my back. I don't give a shit. I'm going to get it. And the first man I really seen to do that was DK. Like so,
Yeah, man. You know,
he
not
rubbed off
everybody
on
can
me.
do that though.
I know.
That's a gift that not everybody has, man.
I know.
And you know, and then you have folks that will say this, you know, you have to sacrifice something in order to have that drive. You know what I mean? Whether your business becomes before your family, you sacrifice your
But
family, you
that's
put
kind
your
of true,
family.
Carl. That's kind of
Huh?
true. I believe
No,
that.
it is. No,
That's
no,
true.
no, no. I get it. I get it. And what I'm my point is that you have a lot of people that would prefer to have a certain balance.
Right.
You know, that might have that drive, but also feel a certain way when it comes to morally how they feel about their families, and they simply choose not to go, to the paint, hard in the paint all the time, because they're intentionally trying to maintain a certain balance.
Right.
Then you got a lot of cats that's, money oriented. It's they make decisions based on the amount of money's involved or that they can get. And then you have folks that's it's about the size of the deal. So it's different motivational factors that's involved in all of our lives. It's just a matter of who you are as an individual. That the Shabazz that's inside of you will determine, the right amount of balance in your life. Nobody else can say that to you. They can't say, man, you need to do A, B, and C, or you shouldn't go at it so hard, or you should spend more time. No, man, that ain't none of your business.
Right. Exactly.
You
All
know
right.
what I mean? But
Let me go here. Evander Holyfield.
okay,
How do you feel about him?
Evander, man, I know him, but I don't know him well enough to been in situations on in a more personal atmosphere. A lot of times it was some things I totally disliked about him. Like he don't sign autographs, and I kind of feel like you owe that to these kids out here. You know what I mean? I don't sign. I don't want you selling my autograph. Fuck you, man. Nobody trying
Really?
to sell you out there. This, a kid. So there's things that I didn't particularly like about Evander, but like I said, and we didn't have a whole lot in common. He was very religious, or whatever, spiritual, whatever. That I wasn't brought up quite like that. You know what I mean? I'm a believer in all that, but I don't like folks that try to put their beliefs on me. You know what I mean? Oh,
Right.
you need to be saved, man. Fuck you. You ain't saved. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? No.
Right.
Don't try to impose your beliefs on me.
Right.
And it don't matter. I have my own belief system, and I'm very comfortable in the skin I'm in,
Right.
and so. But like I said, with Evander, it was different. He, I didn't have the opportunity to know him on a personal note,
Level.
but yeah, on a personal level. But I didn't, I was not that big a fan of his as even as a fighter.
I didn't
You
like
know,
him once he beat Tyson. And I know this is gonna sound crazy. I don't know. He's definitely a boxer that I do not know. I only know him like the regular public does, as far as he's concerned. But once he beat Tyson, I don't know, because I love Tyson so much. I just
right,
disliked him.
right. No, that's a normal reaction. It's kind of like, hey man, I don't like nobody that beat Ali. I
Right.
wasn't no Joe Frazier wasn't one of my favorites.
Right.
And with Mike Tyson, see, my son grew up with Mike Tyson. When Mike would come out of the house, he babysitting my kids. He went, way back in the day. You know what I mean? In the
Right.
late '80s, and then in his prime and whatnot. So my children, feel about Mike Tyson the way I feel about Ali.
Right.
and Mike could do no wrong. You know what I mean? Mike could do no wrong, and you know, and to see that side, it's like, man, somebody say something bad about Mike Tyson, my son looking at you like, yo, man, you need to, you know, you need to tame that down a little bit.
Exactly. I get it.
You know what I mean? We ain't, you know, that you know, stop all that.
Okay,
You
let's
know,
go. Let's get into Floyd Mayweather.
okay.
How about him? How you feel?
No, listen, man, you got to have a great amount of love and admiration and respect for Floyd. I do, because see, I've known Floyd since 14 years old, maybe. I brought him down to the training camp. This was before the Olympics.
Okay.
I brought him down here to train with a guy named Frankie Randall, who was the first guy to beat Julio Cesar Chavez. And Big Floyd, I think, was still he's still locked up. He was gone away for a minute. And this guy that was partners with me with Frankie Randall had he was like the amateur manager of Floyd Mayweather, a guy named Don Hale.
Okay.
And so Don had asked me to bring Floyd to the camps. I brought Floyd down here, man, and we got to know each other, you know what I mean? And we got to be pretty cool, you know what I mean? Not that we the best of buddies or anything, but we got to be good. In fact, I tried to sign him at one particular time when he and Aaron was falling out. I was trying to get him, and that's when he ended up signing with Jay Prince years ago. But I like Floyd not as a person. There's some things he do that I don't agree with, but that's everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as a fighter, it's a matter of how you want to look at it. You know what I mean? He was brought along the right way. He from a pure pugilistic view, you know, see what shit like the Pacquiao fight, happened about 5 to 7 years too late. You know what I mean? That would have been a better fight in their prime, a few years before that.
Right.
But he did, but the man, has beaten everybody that he's been in the ring with.
He has.
So you can't knock that. You can't knock that. But did he fight everybody? For the most part, he did. But, that's my only gripe with Floyd was, he didn't give the public enough. It's like that once a year thing, he got accustomed to, because he was earning enough money that he didn't have to fight but once a year.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
But he could have been so much, he would have been so much richer and greater with a little more activity, and he would have achieved that a little sooner than he did.
Right.
But he is the guy that everybody looks up to now. He was the the next guy after Mike Tyson that the public. There was a time when he didn't draw.
Right.
Pretty Boy Floyd didn't draw.
Right.
And then he changed his whole persona and turned into Money Mayweather, and it hit, and the people responded to that, and therefore he created some large gates and large money, which is what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know him. I don't know him all that well, but I know him, and I've been around him and Jay Prince, as a matter of fact. And he's a cool dude. That
yeah, man.
He's okay. Let me move on and take it to Bernard Hopkins.
Hopkins, another one, man. Hopkins, I would say this, man. We're probably one of the most well-conditioned fighters that you'll run across. I don't ever think there was a time since he turned pro that he was not in shape, and maybe even before then. Bernard come up hard in the streets, went to the joint, all that. He went the normal, route that we black people do.
Yeah.
And you got to like him or dislike him. You have to respect the man for, stating his opinion, standing behind whatever decision he made, whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. He stood by it. He owned it. So in that regard, I got a lot of respect for Bernard.
Yeah, me too. I know him as well. I did a story on him. we got cool. I remember him telling me a story about he's frugal, and what I mean by that is all the money that he
Oh
has,
yeah.
his
Oh
wife
yeah.
still uses coupons to shop at the supermarket.
You know,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
man. That, yeah, but is it really? I don't know. That is crazy to me. You know what I mean?
Me
It's,
too.
but hell, I get it. You know what I mean? Bernard is always, one thing I think that has happened with Bernard is I don't think Bernard ever forgot from whence he came.
Yeah, definitely. That's true.
You know what I mean? And coming up hard. He lost his first pro fight.
Right.
How many people lose their first pro fight to go on and become world champion, let alone one of the longest reigning champions with the record number of title defenses and
Definitely.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
And he lost his very first professional fight.
Yeah. Let me
You
ask you
know,
about this. This is the last one. Uh, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
Okay. He was a wonderful, wonderful casino host. You know what I mean? I did not care for him at all as president. My father, on the other hand, loves him.
Right. That's why I asked you.
Now, I can't subscribe to that bullshit personally.
Right.
And look, man, anytime be it what it be, you know what I mean? I get, that's your boy and everything, but when I look around, this is how I come to my conclusions. When I look around and everybody that I have issues with, whether it's morally, whether it's, the way they think. In other words, when I look up and see these white supremacists, these neo-Nazi groups, these people that hate black people, and I see them loving this man and supporting this man, I feel like there's no way that me and that group of people can like the same motherfucker. You know what I mean? I don't.
Right.
What it's like I must be missing something if the Klan endorsing him and loving him and all this old bullshit, and they would string me up in the New York Minute.
Yep.
How can I like that dude?
Right.
You ain't for me. You can't be for both of us.
Right.
So no, I didn't like nothing about Donald Trump. I'm glad he lost. And I think he was, look, the country's fucked up now because of all this division, and I think he stoked all that, and is responsible for all that.
Right.
And we losing. Look, democracy is built. When everybody has a voice. That's what democracy is. Everybody, one man, one vote. Everybody has a voice. And when you're busy suppressing voices, and these voices happen to be people that look like me, I got issues with that. How can you be for me? You gonna sit there and tell me that you love me, you care for me?
Right.
I
get it.
No. So no, but I just hope that he doesn't do any more damage than he's already done. I'll leave it at that.
You know what, man? Yeah, this has been a good interview. Let me ask you this: what do you have any projects coming up? I think DK has a fight coming up soon, right?
Yeah, it's scheduled for January 29th.
Okay.
And I believe it's in Warren, Ohio.
Okay.
And it's a cruiserweight championship fight. Please, Mabuto Makanu. It was one of the can't pronounce the name or the guy he fighting, but and then he just won the purse bid for the heavyweight champion, one of them, the Trevor Bryan, which is the WBA regular champion for the whatever they is. They got too many of them out there, but he's just won a purse bid for him and a guy named Char to fight. So I don't know if that fight's going to be on that card or not. So
are you going to be involved in them, or what's up with you? You coming back to the game or what?
Yeah, that's stay tuned. Details at 11. I would say this, but the year 2022, is going to answer all these questions. You know what I mean? I just don't want to publicly give up what I'm, I don't want to jinx myself right
I
now.
get it.
So,
I get it, Carl.
but I'm headed in that direction. I ain't really went nowhere. I just had to get myself right.
Right.
Dealing with these orthopedic problems, these, knees and hips and shit, so take care of them joints, brother. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you, man. Like, I love you. I definitely love DK.
No doubt, man.
I
Look,
mean,
this family, man. Look, when you finally hit me up and then finally, kind of reconnected, I was like, wow, man. When you said, I'm like, what? I'm like,
you know what?
no,
You know what?
nigga.
One of the reasons why I always stayed away, like I never forgot, and I always held it dear to me. And even when my mother was alive, but one of the things that I did not want to do, I wanted to build, no matter how big or how small, something on my own. And I didn't want to come back, or I didn't want to knock on your door with my hands out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure DK,
no.
everybody.
See, we the same on that. I'm the same way.
Yeah, like,
it's part of the reason why I had to step. I'm gonna come if and when I do this, make this move. It'll be when I'm able to do it the way that I want to be projected to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I gotta be me.
Right.
I don't want to come. I ain't gonna be on my knees. I ain't gonna.
Right.
Be my hand. I'm gonna be, standing tall for whatever it is. You got to stand up in this world. You ain't got to stand tall, but you got to stand up.
And you got to stand up on your own, and that was very important to me.
Exactly.
So I didn't. Exactly. I never wanted to come back and knock on the door and be like, "Hey," you know what I mean? And then I'm fucked
back.
up. Nah, that's not my style. So everything wasn't easy. I've been fucked up before. I've been to jail. I went through the shit that I went through, but I always just did what I had to do. So I always knew you guys was there. I don't know if you would have helped me, if you wouldn't, and I really don't care, because I was never going to put myself in a position to ask, because I just don't like them kind of people. Like,
well, what I can tell you this, man, is when speaking from a very personal note, is that when we did reconnect, man, it brought real joy to my heart.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that because we doing this interview, this podcast, or whatnot, whatever this is, but I'm saying it because it's real, man. Those were some cherished times. That was before you get caught up in the glitter and the glamour and all of that. It was real, genuine. It was Carl, and there was a Shabazz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's damn near 50 years ago, man. Yeah. That's like, I hate to be giving up my age. I feel like my mind tell me I'm half that. My body's saying, no, nigga, no, you ain't. You ain't half. You're half as good as you think you are.
Right.
Body ain't responding, bro. But
you gonna get it back.
Yeah, man.
It'll come back.
It was like I said, man, it was really good. Cause see, when I seen the magazine and shit on the LinkedIn and whatnot, I'm like, damn, okay, and somehow I think we connected even
on
before
LinkedIn.
all that.
Maybe. I don't remember.
Then it was like, yo, man, did you see my man? I'm like, then you said your former name and whatnot. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Do I remember, nigga? What? I'm glad you still alive. You know what I mean? Because you got to ask that shit. It's been so long, and everybody don't make it to these numbers. You know what I mean? So, but it's good to it's good to talk, man. It's good to,
without a doubt. And I want to say for the record, man, whatever we could do together, I'm definitely with. We got to do a project or something to do.
I'm gonna be at you. Don't worry, I'm gonna be at you. I thought very soundly about what you said last week when we spoke. So
yeah,
when it comes to filming and whatnot, so I'm gonna leave that right there. But we will definitely be talking about some stuff in that arena.
Okay, well, we definitely got to do it. Carl, man, thank you, man. Like I promise you, I really appreciate you, man. And I'm gonna be talking to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Likewise, man. It's good, man. I'm glad to be able to do this with you, man. It was nice. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Carl, you have a good day. All right?
All right, my brother.
I'll get back
Take
to
care
you.
now.
You too.
All right.